Sunday morning brings the dawning. It's just a restless feeling by my side. Early dawning, Sunday morning. It's just the wasted years so close behind. Watch out, the world's behind you. There's always someone around you who will call. It's nothing at all. Sunday morning and I'm falling. I've got a feeling I don't want to know. Early dawning, Sunday morning. It's all the streets you crossed not so long ago. Watch out, the world's behind you. There's always someone around you who will call. It's nothing. It's nothing at all. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you guys come in. Welcome so much. Welcome to Bitcoin Talk Show. My name is Thomas Hunt. Today is Sunday, July 22nd, 2018. And this is what happened today in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is up 1.38% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 7,511, a high of 7,513, and a low of 7,357. That's $1 for 13,324 Satoshis. Just 2 weeks ago, I was excited about Lightning capacity reaching 38 Bitcoins. Today, we are over 100 Bitcoins in Lightning capacity. As Eirik says, this is truly the most bullish graph in the whole of crypto. There's now more than 101 Bitcoin being traded on the Lightning Network. And if you see the pattern here, you'll notice that it curves up and it's likely to curve over. This is possibly an S curve. This is possibly the S curve of the Lightning Network. Very exciting. They said it couldn't be done. Look at the rate that it was growing, and then look at how it suddenly began to grow. Exciting stuff. On June 2nd, 1986, the Senate first began televising its sessions. On that day, Senator Hal Heffen presented his sonnet on the matter. It spoke about how this new form of transparency would benefit lobbyists, not the people. Good stuff from James D'Angelo, founder of the World Bitcoin Network and the Bitcoin Blackboard series, now working on the interesting project that adding more transparency to Congress and the Senate actually gave more control to lobbyists than normal people. Previously, James had researched how Nixon, who removed the Senate's ability to vote privately, actually helped the lobbyists because now you could tell if your lobbying was successful. Who you gave money to and how they voted were now both public information that you could compare. Good for lobbyists, bad for people, bad for democracy. Distributed Magazine is special in that it's the perfect on-ramp to blockchain technology for novices, while chock full of novel content in every issue. Congratulations to Jeremy Gardner on the third issue of his Distributed Magazine. It says here on the headlines, "We the People." Dan Larimer's latest brainchild, EOS, is meant to build the future of blockchain governance. With a mainnet launched and constitution in question, the whole world is watching. Article number 2, Running the World on Blockchain Technology. Good luck with that one. The basics behind decentralization. Good stuff from Jeremy Gardner and Distributed Magazine. Shout out to IBLB. $10 well spent, I'd say, thanks to the lady at the swap meet. And he was able to get a Bitcoin shirt for his ska show that evening. Very cool stuff. Kind of has a retro Bitcoin feeling to it. I like it. It reminds me of the We Use Coins video, something like that. Ludwig von Mises laid the intellectual foundations that led to Bitcoin and our understanding of it. Regression theorem, emergent order. There are such things as reality and logic. Truth can be discovered. And Francis Pouliot says, check out this great discussion on Austrian economics and Bitcoin mining from Safedine Amus and Max Hillebrand, broadcast right here on the World Crypto Network. So check that out down below. Be sure to subscribe to the World Crypto Network as well. We were getting some subscribers there for a while. Right now, we need more subscribers. So always wiggle the card reader. Don't get scammed. And this post is a few years old, but it's always a good time to remind you that this is a skimmer. A skimmer is a hardware piece that a hacker can put onto an ATM. It can record every one of your codes that goes through there, and it can steal your ATM card and your information. As the guy here is suggesting, go ahead and wiggle that thing. If it comes off, it's not part of the ATM. That's good advice. This guy also says check the keypad. Somebody here had put a skimmer on top of the keypad. Just impressive the lengths that they'll go to steal your money. Imagine when they get excited about stealing your Bitcoin. Crypto Paradigm says BitTorrent became popular due to a massive disconnect between the copyright lobby and reality. Bitcoin is becoming popular due to a similar disconnect between the financial systems and reality. Good stuff. And I've been making some Bitcoin flyers to hand out in Las Vegas. You can check it out right here. We got the close up. One Bitcoin is worth more than 6 ounces of gold. And we're just trying these out. We're going to do different versions of the flyer and see what works, that kind of thing. There's the epic photocopier where I made the copies. Amazing. A mere $40, you can get around 100 or 100 or so Bitcoin flyers. You can cut them right up at Kinko's. They've got a great paper cutter down there. I guess it's called FedEx Kinko's now or something, but you can figure that out. Thanks so much, Rajari. Sorry, I'm screwing that up. Rajashi. I don't know. Sorry, man. Grand salute for the efforts you put in, Mad Bitcoins. Bitcoin lives among the heart of people like you. That's why it will win. Let the VCs figure out their profit machines while Bitcoiners keep scratching their itch. And I'm definitely going to release the posters. He's looking for the design. I'm almost there. I've got my video rendering. I'm going to have my video up for tomorrow. I'll release the posters tomorrow, and I'll also release the challenge. I'd like to challenge you guys to hand out flyers in your local community. And one more thing, film it on your iPhones. Even if there's just a little bit of footage, even if it's not that much, even if you can't get people to take your flyers, I think that we can all do this. I think we can start practicing how to spread Bitcoin in the real world to people who have never heard of it before and aren't interested. It's much harder than you think, but that's not a reason to give up, and that's not a reason not to do it. That's a reason to get better at it and to find people who are really good at it who will teach us. We also had this great tweet from Yaddle Zap. He said, I made a Bitcoin flyer front and back after getting inspired by Mad Bitcoins. Thanks so much, Yaddle, and check it out. It says, your cash is burning. Put out the fire with Bitcoin. And he's got some good stuff on the back. It's a shame that the money in our bank account evaporates over time, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Bitcoin is the new gold, yet superior in a number of key ways. Gold is rare, but grows in supply. Bitcoin supply will never change. Gold is traded. Bitcoin flows as easy as email. Gold is a safe haven. Bitcoin is secured by the world's largest network of computer power and growing. And he's got a great little graph here with the charts, or a line with the charts. 2011, Bitcoin was $15. 2013, it was $100. 2015, it was $230. 2017, $2,000. And 2018, $7,000. Very impressive. Great stuff from Yaddle's app. And remember, you can make your own Bitcoin flyer. Put your ideas out there. Send it to us. We'll retweet it. We'll spread it around. We might even print some out and hand them out. We haven't gotten to that perfect Bitcoin flyer yet. All of these are tests. We need to test them in the field. We need to give them to people, see what they say, see what turns them on. Different people are going to be interested in different things. We're going to need different kind of flyers to reach all those different people, especially different areas, different parts of the world or the country. But I think we can do it. I think that as we were talking about yesterday with the phone calls, this right here is Bitcoin's marketing department. We have no money, we have no advertising, we have no employees, but we have all of you and the volunteers. And that's what's going to spread the word about Bitcoin is volunteers who believe in it. It's just like the Revolutionary War. The British had their Hessians, their hired German troops. The revolutionaries had themselves. The revolutionaries defeated the Hessians. They defeated the Redcoats. They were outnumbered almost 10 to 1. But the revolutionaries fought hard, and they fought for their land, and they fought for themselves. And that's what the Bitcoiners fight for. And by spreading the word about Bitcoin, you actually end up helping yourself. I know that's hard for you to understand. You don't believe in altruism and all those kind of things. But there is good out there. And if you do good, good things happen to you. That's karma. It's also My Name is Earl. But that's a great show. It's about karma. Here it is now rendering Bitcoin Las Vegas. You see just a little clip there and some of the editing work I had to do to get this video together. I'm not sure if it's okay to show dancing girls. I know there's been some debate and discussion about this in the community. I think part of the problem was previously the dancing girls were hired specifically for the Bitcoin show. These girls are just bartenders trying to earn more money. But as you can see in the background, Bitcoin. They take Bitcoin at the D, and judging from that screen they've got right there, they've even expanded it. It used to just be a couple of these places, but now they say the hotel front desk, the D shop, the D grill, the Coney Island hot dog stand in the front, and the steakhouse on the inside all accept Bitcoin. So this really is the Bitcoin casino for you. There's another one that is owned by the same group down the street, the Golden Gate. They also accept Bitcoin. So this is really exciting stuff. And I hope you guys enjoy the video when I release it tomorrow. I'm going to see if YouTube has like a premiere thing, something similar to Twitch. I think they made one of those. Otherwise, I'll release it around 9 a.m. Monday morning. Um, Probably we'll talk about it on the show. Maybe we'll play part of it, maybe today or later. This is a dramatic issue, but I want to bring it up and I want to talk about it. We'll open it up in calls for a little while, see if you guys have any opinions on this. But just to recap you, James Gunn is the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, right? So he's made some incredibly successful films for the Disney Marvel company, but now he's been fired. And basically, his firing was for some tweets that were inappropriate jokes that were sent 10 years ago. So I really think like, and I haven't even read the tweets. They say they're, pedophile jokes or rape jokes or, they're really inappropriate jokes, but they're still jokes, right? So he's intending to make humor. He made bad humor 10 years ago. He had a more inappropriate sense of humor then than he did now. Also, it was a different time. It was a completely different time. But regardless, these tweets have been brought up by a right-wing agitator. I think his name is Mike Cernovich. He was also responsible for the Pizzagate conspiracy story. He helped spread that. And basically, he's just going around trying to shoot down and burn down Hollywood people. And certainly, Mr. Gunn made these inappropriate jokes 10 years ago. I know the Disney company is trying to be proactive and trying to protect their company and their brand, but they could have known this about Mr. Gunn when they hired him. I just saw on Red Letter Media they were making fun of Disney because they predicted this years ago. They're like, "Yeah, he made a crazy movie, and now you've hired him to do your family friendly franchise. What are you doing?" And that's what they said when he was hired. But I just think that the Disney company's lost sight of it here. At one point, sure, you're trying to protect your sparkly clean brand name and all that, but what happened to forgiveness, right? This James Gunn is a human being. The people who work at Disney are also human beings. Certainly, if they had made a mistake 10 years ago, when they were younger people, when the world was a different place, then it would have been different, right? It would have been, they would have not forgiven them. They would have burned themselves down. And I just wonder how far we're going to get as a society without any forgiveness. And I know we've removed bankruptcy and we removed all kinds of other forms of forgiveness, but it still seems like a very American thing to forgive people. We forgave Richard Nixon, shockingly enough. We try to forgive Michael Richards. We try to forgive some of these people that have done, bad things. We forgive Ross Ulbricht, other things. I think we should be more forgiving and less judging of ridiculous tweets made 10 years ago. Also, I think that Mr. Gunn should be judged by the quality of his work and that the two films he's made are good films, and he should be allowed to make the third film. It's a very strange thing where you make successful movies in Hollywood, which is the hardest thing in the world to do, and you get fired for ridiculous tweets from 10 years ago that were brought up by a right-wing agitator trying intentionally to make you lose your job. It doesn't seem like the Disney company thought about this a lot. I hope that there's a little bit of a backlash. This here is a tweet from Dave Batista. He plays Drax the Destroyer or something like that, the big guy in the Guardians of the Galaxy. And he says that James Gunn is one of the most loving, caring, good-natured people he has ever met. He's gentle, kind, and cares deeply for people and animals. He's made mistakes. We all have. I'm not okay with what's happening to him. And I agree with Mr. Batista here. It's not okay. The whole point of this world is you can make mistakes, you can change, you can become a better person, and you can do good things. And it sounds like Mr. Gunn did that, and he was on his way, and he was doing good. And then they bring up his past and completely rob him of his future. I don't get this at all. I don't really get the whole Me Too movement and all that as well. I agree these people have done horrible things in their past, and some of them are still doing them, and that's a different story. But it just seems that we're throwing out a lot of good people and that we've forgotten about the values of forgiveness. And this the same thing for the Roseanne Barr story. They threw her. She had a number one TV show, and they threw her out on the street over a tweet that she might have made while she was on prescription medication, and again was intending to be a joke. We're taking down a lot of people for humor here, and that's going to be bad for us. I don't want to live in a humorless society. I don't know if you do, but I think there's a lot to talk about here. So let me know later in the calls if you want to talk about forgiveness and Guardians of the Galaxy and all these other things. I saw this great tweet from Litecoin Loyal. She says, "This is money." And this is a gold certificate. You could trade this in for gold. It even has gold on there. It says it's $1. And this is debt. And this is a Federal Reserve note. Actually, it's a silver certificate. Has a gold logo on it. My bad. But yeah, you could trade this for $1 in silver. You could trade this for nothing. So things were better before. This is a great tweet from Game of Coins. He says, Mario was the first hodler of digital coins. Decades ago, I remember being envious of his adventures and the little digital treasures he would acquire. Little did I know that I would grow up to be just like him. I love digital coins. Thank you, Mario. And he's got this cool graphic. It says Super Bitcoin Brothers, cryptocurrency system on the Satoshi instead of the NES. Very cool stuff. We've got some positive news this weekend. The Bitcoin ETF's comments submitted to the SEC are overwhelmingly positive, and there's a lot of them. There was much interest with 210 displayed comments on the SEC's website. Only 6 can oppose the proposal. Everyone else basically says virtual currencies are here to stay. The United States must quickly adopt Bitcoin to remain at the forefront of technology and finance, and that regulation would protect the millions of investors who are already trust or are interested in Bitcoin, and it will reduce and eradicate manipulation. I don't know about the last part, but I do think that they should allow the Bitcoin ETF. They should allow investors to invest with their pre-tax money and to hold Bitcoin in a safe way with the ETF holding the keys. Maybe not as good as you holding the keys, but still pretty good. Mastercard had an outage, so crypto had a field day. And this is why we can't land the airplane that is Bitcoin. This is why we can't attach new wings or have a completely new design. Bitcoin must keep running because this way we get to make fun of MasterCard and Visa every time they fail. And even if they fail once a year, that's far more than Bitcoin. Bitcoin never fails so far. As they're saying on July 12th by the Financial Times, the outage had a global impact, sparking a round of complaints from the payment first customer base. MasterCard says there may have been some issues processing transactions, and Raven makes fun of them, saying Bitcoin has never had a service interruption. Ooh. And they say with crypto, you can follow your transaction and know what's happening without needing to spend 20 minutes on the phone with the bank. And it is really neat that all the transactions in Bitcoin and most of the other altcoins are all available on these explorers. And you can see your actual transaction of you sending money from your wallet to the exchange or from the exchange to your wallet. This means you know that your withdrawal or your deposit is on its way. You know how many confirmations it has. Usually it takes 5 or 6, and the site will confirm for you. It's very cool. Now they're saying here, Why is Mastercard not supporting Bitcoin, the most reliable payment network on earth? And if they were a different kind of company, they would have already thought years ago to move their Mastercard system and services to Bitcoin or a blockchain type system. And they are still working on it, exploring test developments and test applications of the blockchain, hiring more developers to work on the tech, and trying to patent and control this new system that they had nothing to do with. But once again, they will face a huge rival in Bitcoin. It's a good point. That wouldn't happen using Ripple technology. Yeah, that's funny. First Visa, now it seems MasterCard is down. When will people realize that there is an alternative, decentralized system for payments available? Oh, but they mean Dash. Good luck with that one, too. Bitcoin users unaffected. Isn't that the truth? And as always, you can support the World Crypto Network by donating Bitcoin or crazy altcoins to any of the QR codes on our screen right now. We've also got a Patreon and the links down below for the World Crypto Network and one for Mad Bitcoins if you'd like to support me and the work that I do. So we're now going to try to exit full screen, see if I can find my way back to all the controls and everything. And we're going to open up the phone call line. So if you'd like to call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, we will take your calls. Let me know what you think. Should that guy be forgiven for the Guardians of the Galaxy movie? Will the price of Bitcoin just keep rising? Did you buy any of those crazy altcoins? As much as I've said it, I love Bitcoin. I think it's the best, but Bitcoin's only up about 2% here. I think the altcoins are up about 4%. I don't know why that keeps happening, but I'm telling you about it. So I say in the chat that Dash just has good marketing. Well, once again, remember Dash has a part of their block reward or what have you, which goes to proposals. You can propose, like I think good old Amanda did all those years ago, to do a show about Dash and to promote Dash, and she got paid in Dash. I do a show about Bitcoin, but as of yet, no Satoshi and no Roger Ver has dropped Bitcoin or many Bitcoin upon us. We still wait. We still hope. Seems possible. But anyway, we're just going to keep doing this show. So let's see what's going on in the chat. They say they love Pink Floyd. We're doing some quotes in the lyrics. Yeah, Have a Cigar. That's a good song. They also like the TV show, or they like the video game Duck Hunt. Very funny. Back in the day. Smash the likes. Australia's in the house. Woo. And yeah, they say check out Max's interview with Safe Dean. He did some good stuff at the Mises Institute this week or Mises University. And yeah, I mean, it's good stuff. And you can check it out. And I know people were maybe overwhelmed. There was so much Mises content, but that was last week. It's over now. So now we got to get back to Bitcoin, doing the Bitcoin content and get people to call in, get some more co hosts going, and start spreading the word. Let's see. They say crypto is unstoppable. I haven't seen the Sarah Silverman tweet. What did Sarah Silverman tweet about? A horrible joke or Bitcoin? I don't know. We could go either way. Once again, Sarah Silverman's a comedian, so anything she says, I'm not going to take seriously. That's part of the problem here is that we have all these jokes, and we take them seriously, even though they're jokes. So they're like, oh, yeah, here we go. So, yeah, I know this is all like they're blaming the Disney. So, um, yep, I mentioned Roseanne as well. And again, I'm not apologizing for what Roseanne says, but I'm just saying what happened to our forgiveness? Do you really think that Roseanne was a secret racist this whole time? This whole time, she never had anyone out her. She never did anything horrible. Uh, I don't know. I think she made a mistake because she was on prescription drugs, and I think she's a comedian trying to tell jokes. And I do give people who tell jokes a little bit of leeway because telling jokes is hard. It's not easy. So yeah, I just don't know about that one. And these guys are saying down with James Gunn and all that, but they don't have any reasons. I agree with Matt Smith. Matt Smith here, he says, Kramer was a little excessive with that act at the Laugh Factory. And he was. And that one night, Kramer made a mistake and Kramer said horrible words and he got in, he got mad. He lost control of his temper, all those things. And he said horrible words. But I think we should rehabilitate him. I don't think that Kramer is a secret racist. I don't think that he's a bad guy. I think that he was heckled bad and he said some bad words and he lost his temper. And that's the thing. We used to have, like, in our society, maybe we weren't so focused on the record and all this, that your Facebook page shows that you used to drink and have fun and all these things, and we're going to ruin you for that your whole life. I'm not sure that's anybody's idea. I think we should all stop that. So yeah, I don't know about the elites loving pedophilia or anything like that. I think it's awful. But one tweet is a joke. He had hundreds of those. But why did they let him direct the first two films then? I'm just not sure about this, and I don't know how that interferes with his job as a director. And there's a lot of things we have to talk about here. No one needs Dash. I don't get it. Dash does have good marketing. That's true because they have money. They've got money. This is the Bitcoin marketing agency right here. We're going to do it without money. We'll do it live. This guy says, I don't take donation in Bcash. That's true. I don't. Although I guess, if Roger wanted to drop $1 million on me in Bcash, I wouldn't complain. I'd probably sell most of it for Bitcoin though. And maybe some USD too. Thanks, John, for thanking us for doing these live streams. I think it's super fun. We're here to talk about Bitcoin, answer any questions you have. If you call us right now on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. Also, if you want to talk about the James Dean and all the James Gunn, all these kind of stories. Brian Jones agrees with me. It's about the Mike Cernovich, that he's straw manning people for pursuing their careers. And that, yeah, the only reason we know about these James Gunn tweets is because this Mike Cernovich guy basically put a hit out on him. And I disagree with Disney for being part of that hit. I think that they went against someone who made them lots of money, who worked for their company, and who hadn't, as far as I know, done any inappropriate jokes in the last 10 years. If you can go, it's like alcoholism. Like, let's say the guy was an alcoholic back in the day, and there was all these pictures of him drinking alcohol and, being a bum, getting in trouble, inappropriateness. Yes, yes. 10 years ago, he quits alcohol for 10 years. He's reformed his life. He's doing better. He's talking to the AA people. He's made friends. He's a sponsor, all those things. And then you're going to fire him because he was an alcoholic 10 years ago. The 10 years in between don't make any difference to you. And that's that's inhuman, right? Making jokes, being stupid, that's very human, right? He makes horrible jokes. Oh yeah, he must be a person. But this Disney corporation that won't forgive someone after 10 years, that's monstrous. That's Orwellian, right? Basically, what we're talking about here is that the memory hole now punishes you and it never forgets. And it'll let you get high. It'll let you get to, directing 2 of the 3 Guardians Galaxies films, but it won't let you direct the 3rd because of a right-wing attack on you. Disney should be able to see through this right-wing attack. They should be able to have the strength to stand up to someone who probably hasn't made an inappropriate joke in 10 years, at least not publicly on Twitter, which again is our society's changed. 10 years ago, it was more appropriate to make inappropriate jokes, especially on Twitter. So I just think it's a big mistake. I think they've lost track of human values and they're trying to be some kind of inhuman corporation. And they're doing very well. I don't think that Disney is human now. They've convinced me. So, and that's the worst, right? So, and yeah, they're saying here Disney hasn't always been the cleanest company either. It's like the pot calling the kettle black. And agreed, Disney's done inappropriate jokes, inappropriate movies. They created other movie labels such as Touchstone so that they could have movies that were not Disney films. The fact that they've bought Marvel Comics and they've bought Marvel Comics movies and all these things, they don't have to hold this bizarro Disney standard that I'm not even sure Walt Disney would agree with. I've seen a lot of video of Walt Disney. He doesn't seem like an unforgiving man, the kind that would punish his employee for an inappropriate joke 10 years ago. It just doesn't seem right to me. So, and also, hey, they mentioned here, Gilbert got dropped from Affleck for tsunami jokes, but those were funny. That's another one where this James Gunn guy, he did some strange movies before he did the Guardians films, and they should have known he was kind of a, edgy indie film guy. The same thing for Gilbert, who has done nothing but inappropriate jokes his whole life. Inappropriate jokes are what Gilbert does. When the Aflac people hired him, they knew that. Then, after the Japanese tsunami, Gilbert got out there, and yeah, he was too early, but that's when it's funniest. The one who's willing to break the joke, to be too early, gets to be the funniest. So, see, I'm seeing this in the chat. I'm like, show me about it. Like, show me it. So, no, I think they shouldn't have fired Gilbert, and they were especially bad for stealing Gilbert's voice afterwards, similar to what they did in Back to the Future 2, when Crispin Glover wouldn't be in the film. So they used the same prosthetics, the same face mask, etc., that they had made from Crispin in the last film. They edited the film around the character. They had it dark in spots, and Crispin Glover won his lawsuit that they had illegally used his image in that film. So it's bad. Movies are bad. They're saying here, he's a pedo. I would like to see any proof that James Gunn has ever touched a child, right? It's one thing that he's made horrible jokes, but I just like to see any kind of proof, any kind of acquisition. And if there is an accusation, I will totally change my tone because he's acting on it. He's not joking about it. For me, the words, the jokes, not as bad as the actions, right? I'm agreeing with Vincent here. There's lots of phallic symbolism in the word sex in Disney films, although I think that's mainly bored animators. The animators are kind of bored, and they're not really watched that closely. But once again, could be the other way. There's lots of crazy, you know, there's stuff in Disney films. There's interesting stuff. Maleficent, the evil witch, so forth. The evil characters have an interesting thing. But we're open for phone calls here. You can call us now on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. I'll try to keep the show open a little bit longer. We are on a little earlier this morning. I just got up, walked the dog, had my breakfast, and I was ready to go with this Bitcoin thing. Also do some Googling. I got some Google stories to talk about. It hasn't been that much going on. Looks like it is going up right now. Some charts going for you guys. Bitcoin's future looks bright for the first time in 2018. ETF reports 97% positive comments. Hashflare shuts down Bitcoin mining service. Looks like that cloud mining thing really worked out. Bitcoin opinion, the bulls are back in town. Banks could engage in competitive misconduct to keep users from, I'm going to go with buying Bitcoin. That seems about right. Let's see. The future's bright. A bombardment of negative publicity and volatility as the price fell from $20,000 a coin to the mid 7,000s. However, the trend seemed to have switched this week. Bum, bum, bum. Hashflare shuts down Bitcoin mining service and cancels all Bitcoin contracts. Cloud mining, good stuff, huh? Let's see what happened. They had shut down their processor, shut down their big cancellations according to their terms of service, but they also place strict new controls on withdrawals, fueling long-standing allegations that the operation is not above board. I always told you never to trust cloud mining, that the cloud was someone else's computer and that they would be holding your coins. But look now what has come. Just a note to people, if you're on an exchange that you don't trust. I know you want to get out of there fast, but if you try to withdraw all your money at once, it probably won't work. I suggest taking your money out of these questionable exchanges in smaller batches. The exchanges often, like Mt. Gox, previously was freezing small withdrawals, or they were freezing large withdrawals, sorry, but they were allowing small ones to come through. Think strategically. Take your time. Get some of your money out first before you get all of your money out. So they paid for a yearly fee for a fixed amount of cryptographic power. The yearly fee was invested in mining hardware, allegedly, while service fees covered costs like personnel and electricity. In exchange, Hashflare agreed to buy, operate, and maintain Bitcoin mining hardware on customers' behalf. But it didn't work. Bum, bum, bum. Oh well. To anybody that bought a Hashflare cloud mining contract with a credit card, it might be possible to get a refund with a credit card. That's good to know, good to do. And again, why they shouldn't accept credit cards, because credit cards can easily be canceled. Everybody knows that. Bitcoin opinion. The bulls are back in town. That's right. Told you that last week. Do you know what that means? Oh, the boys are back. We got some Always Sunny gifts going on here. Good stuff. And yeah, after the Always Sunny gifts is a good time to put your "This is not financial advice," blah, 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 blah. Well, we could tell from the Always Sunny gifts, man. Bitcoin buying wild, there's timing, blah, blah, blah. Never follow dumb money. Updated title, original title. The original title, Why Bitcoin Won't Bounce Back, according to 5 experts. The new title, Bitcoin is surging, but these experts are still skeptical. Won't bounce back. Good one. Mixing ignorance with power is a great recipe for disaster. And then he bags on CNBC and Bloomberg, Reuters, all telling you not to buy in Bitcoin, saying Bitcoin is just a scam. Funny stuff, man. Funny stuff. Banks could engage in competitive misconduct to keep users from Bitcoin. No shit. What do you call freezing everybody's accounts? What do you call canceling all the credit cards where people try to buy Bitcoin with their credit cards? This has been happening for years. It's going to keep happening. We didn't think this would be easy, did we? We thought we were going to have to fight and claw for every inch of ground, and nothing's changed. We're going to have to fight and claw for every inch of ground. But when it's over for the banks. There'll be no more banks unless they adapt, unless they change. The price of Bitcoin is a nice round and even $7,500. You can call us now on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. It's early Sunday morning. You don't have to work. Call in, talk about crypto, talk about whether or not we should forgive James Gunn or Michael Richards or Gilbert Gottfried or Roseanne Barr, or any of the other comedians who have made jokes. I guess Gunn's a director. He's kind of a comedian. He also wrote some of those films, so he's also a writer. But again, what in Hollywood, if you make a great film, you don't get to make any other great films because of jokes from 10 years ago? This doesn't make any sense to me. Let's see. They're saying, oh, I don't know. I like the thing where people are saying in Trump's secret meeting with Putin, they talked about Bitcoin and it was positive. That was funny to me. I don't know if that's true. No one knows what they talked about in that meeting, but it's nice to say that it's Bitcoin. This is it, people. Jokes in the chat. Oh, yeah, a lot of people were bearish about Bitcoin. I wonder how that's turning out for them. A lot of people told me it was going to 5K or $1,200. Looks like this right here was the bottom, the 57774 or 5774. Then we seem to come right back up. Looking on a longer chart, we can see how we've dragged all the way down to here, then a little bit of up. At least we're going sideways here. And here it is, a nice pop up there. Uh, Looks like a bull flag for me down to here. Let's see. More stuff in the chat. They say, check out Raising Cane's in Las Vegas, the best chicken tenders ever. I've seen that shop around, a couple of them. It's kind of a chain. I will check that out. Sounds good. I like chicken. I'm not supposed to eat breaded chicken. It's not good for me, but sometimes I will. This is Bitcoin Talk Show. You can call us live if you want on Skype at World Crypto Network. Looking at a possible bear flag right here. Might go up higher, but no one knows. Oh man, multiple people are recommending Raising Cane's. This must be a good place. Is it better than Popeyes? And yeah, I won't even do KFC anymore. That's a hard ban. They are out. It's gotten a lot worse, I think, since I was a kid, or my taste buds and stomach and everything else has gotten a lot worse. I don't know. But let's see what else we've got going on here in the mainstream media. Crypto market sees solid upswing. Bitcoin pushes $7,500. It's interesting. Did they forget about all their Bitcoin is dead? Bitcoin is a scam. Bitcoin is a fad. All that kind of thing. They're just all back to the bulls are in control and the bulls. And there's that story yesterday about Bitcoin and Stellar. See, this is why they want their coin to be called Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Rhodium or Bitcoin Garbage or whatever the new one's called. It's so they end up in my search results. When I search for Bitcoin, I have no choice but to get an article that says Bitcoin and Stellar or Bitcoin Cash or whatever. So it's just about the search results. It's pathetic. Just name Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin. Just keep going it. And then now we're pretty much back. The four reasons why it's never too late or it's not too late to invest in Bitcoin. Ah, no shit. It's never too late. I thought I was late many, many times, and it turns out I was still crazy early every time. So all right, I'm gonna answer questions in the chat, but you guys could always call in. We do have the call lines are open. I could hear your voice. You could tell me that James Gunn is no good. I don't think he's no good. I think he made some jokes. But let's go ahead and answer some questions. I've talked about basic attention token before. I am not very impressed. Already, you can go to protip.is. At protip.is, you can get an open source plugin that fits in your Chrome browser. ProTip will scan the web pages that you visit for Bitcoin addresses and highlight them in green. If a Bitcoin address is found, the time you spend on that website is recorded. At the end of the week, ProTip will tip the top 10 people that you visited. This browser plugin works in Chrome. You don't have to change to some new browser that's not going to have Chrome security updates or Google people working on it. So, ProTip is a plugin that Chris Ellis and I crowdfunded, and Leo wrote, and we thank Leo for that. And Leo AJC, you can check out the code for ProTip on GitHub at github.com/leo-ajc/protip. And ProTip was out years before the Brave browser, is open source and free. We crowdfunded around $15,000, and that went to paying the developer and Chris Ellis, the community man. And we spread the word about ProTip. We did this about 2 or 3 years ago. So I think this is way better than the Brave browser. So, and so yeah, I think it's way better. I think Brave made a mistake with their plans to usurp advertising, the way that they replace the ads on the page, the way that they attempt to pay the advertisers for for the ads. I think that's a mistake. It's not necessarily legal. I don't think that they can take someone else's web page, remove the advertisements, and then put new advertisements on top of that web page. That doesn't seem right to me. I also think that when there's a break in the browser, you'll go back to Chrome or Firefox or something like that. I don't think it's going to work out. Um, I'm not like opposed to it or anything. I just don't think it's going to be that good. Yeah, Brave's more than ProTip, but it's more that you don't want. Like, why would you want to use a random web browser when you could use Chrome? I could tell you recently, I tried to use Firefox for a week, and it's pretty decent. It's fast, it loads goods. There's a lot of good things about Firefox these days, but there's still more than enough annoying small things that I'm happily going back to Chrome. The main small thing for me is that every time I open and close the web browser, I have to log back into all my websites, including my LastPass. So this is a huge pain in the butt. And I don't know if there's a safety or security reason for it. I'm sure there is. And that's just great. But I'm here to use a computer. And I don't need to be logging in all the time. They also had a couple of small bugs that were pretty annoying. The tooltips on Twitter would not disappear. I remember this bug from years ago in Firefox and other Linux browsers. It's ridiculous that no one fixes that. But mainly this logging in and logging out thing, I'd had enough. Also, for some strange reason, the version of LastPass for Mozilla is not as good as the version for Chrome. It lacks the copy password button in a couple of positions. So yeah, and I think it's a it's a great effort. It's open source. It's probably more I don't know. It's more secure in a way because it doesn't go to Google and doesn't give them the information. But user experience, users got to have a smooth user experience, and I think we found that in Chrome. So sounds like the dog's barking. I've already put him out twice today. Go check that out. Um, let's see. Ulf asks for my thoughts on the Liquid project from Blockstream. He says he likes it. I agree with him. I think it's a pretty cool app. I haven't tried it or anything. I've just read about it and read about it for years. But basically, Blockstream is attempting to do side chains, which are like similar to well, it's a side chain. It's a thing that runs on Bitcoin. But as opposed to altcoins where you could just create them out of thin air, with a Bitcoin side chain, you might be able to say, like, put a Bitcoin in there. And then the side chain will always be worth 1 Bitcoin. And if you wanted to cash it out and close the side chain, you could get your Bitcoin back. That's my basic understanding of side chains. I might be wrong on that. They might have changed things since I read about it last. But then you could have your own altcoin and it would be linked to Bitcoin. And it would actually have some value too, because there'd be a certain amount of Bitcoin backing it, if you will. This is similar to the time that Counterparty was created, and Counterparty burned all of the Bitcoin that they received. Everybody was pretty mad at them and questioned why they would burn perfectly good money. But this did give their project kind of an anchor there. It gave it a point where Counterparty has a certain amount of value because they destroyed all these Bitcoins. I don't know. They could have done better off if they spent those building Counterparty. So, yeah, I'm very interested in the Liquid sidechain. I think it's going to be good. Let's see what else is going on. People saying we need an auto tipping app by Lightning. I would like to see the Pro Tip app expanded to Lightning. For a while there, we weren't talking very much about Pro Tip because the Bitcoin fees were so high. And even though Pro Tip does use batching, we were one of the first, I believe, to use batching 2 or 3 years ago to reduce fees and provide a better user experience. When it sends out your 10 tips to the 10 people every week, it batches the transaction. So you only have to pay 1 transaction fee. So if anyone wanted to go to GitHub right here, you could get the code for ProTip and you could make a version of ProTip that works on the Lightning Network. You'd have to continue to release it with the open source license that ProTip's under. But you could do this right here at GitHub ProTip. So I would like to see that. It would be great. And again, if we had a developer that wanted to do it and he needed some money, like not that much money, like 5 to 10 grand, we could try another fundraiser here. We could raise 5 to 10 grand for Pro Tip Lightning, then maybe have some milestones. We could deliver the money to the programmer when he makes the milestones, something like that. I'd love to see. Or if you just want to volunteer to write a version of Pro Tip for Lightning, the Pro Tip code is there, so you could do it. Let's see. Lightning Network is testnet. No, the Lightning Network is mainnet. You can do it on testnet. A lot of the wallets are still on testnet, but there are some wallets that work on the mainnet. So you can check out the Lightning Network. Bcash people hate Lightning. No, duh. They're never going to have it because they don't have a Segway. Oh, I haven't heard that sound in so long. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Morning, Thomas. Jeff from Ohio.
Hey, Jeff. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great today. Thank you. Yeah, I heard your discussion about forgiveness. I feel sorry for people who can't forgive. I really do, because that's a weight and a burden that you have to carry with you for a long time when you can't forgive somebody.
It is. And I'm like everybody else. I get mad at people. I have my fights here and there, but 3 months, 6 months goes by. I find that I don't really care. I'm not keeping an enemies list. I'm not looking for people to screw over in the future. And I'm certainly not, the other thing is some people leave your project or whatever, and then they start talking about you behind your back that, people shouldn't work with you. I'm certainly not doing that. I think it's always, it's kind of a stupid thing, but in that Bambi movie, they said to Thumper, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And that's what I try to do. And I'm not perfect at it, and I screw up a lot of times. But yeah, I think we need to have a more forgiving society. And I'm not sure why Disney, the corporation, has decided to champion this value of unforgiveness. It doesn't seem like any of their films are like that. A lot of times, a guy who's done bad in the beginning, thinking about that Thor Ragnarok film, there's a villain in the beginning, and at the end of the film, he becomes a hero. And this happens many, many times in lots of different movies. And we always say, hey, there's a chance for that guy. And Han Solo at the end of Star Wars, he comes back in, saves the day. What if we had excommunicated Han because he touched a girl or he made a bad joke 10 years ago? He wouldn't have been there to save the day. So yeah, I agree with you. I think we need more forgiveness. I'm not sure why our society doesn't have that.
Well, it's selfishness. It also goes, I think, back to the primitive human mind. If you look at, I mean, I'm not a religious person, but the only religion I'm really familiar with is Christianity. I'm not considered a practicing Christian or anything, but the cornerstone of that religion is forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I happen to think, as a side note, this is a weird thought, but you know how Bitcoin was invented, and then all these side monies were created to sort of either compete or take over Bitcoin. I happen to think that there was a book that was written thousands of years ago that helped humans deal with situations psychologically, and it was co-opted by religions. Because I really do. I think that there was money to be made. I think there was power to be had, and I think religions just said, "Hey, we're going to co-opt this." And but the fundamental idea of forgiving is really good psychologically, along with a number of other basic things that people can do but fail to do. You know, be generous when you can. Be kind when you can. It's like you said, you're not always going to be perfect. Some people take a conversation where you're critical, but not mean, and they take that as mean. Well, that's a matter of perspective. But in the end, yeah, if you feel like you've been slighted by somebody and you can't forgive, you're not harming anybody but yourself. You're carrying that burden with you.
And certainly the Disney companies harming themselves by removing this director from their film. It's going to be a lesser film. It's going to be not as good. And I agree with you. I think the early books were just information. The early Bible books, these kind of things, were information books designed to help people. If you think about some things that make no sense now, like not eating pork, at the time, the way that they prepared pork was unclean. So in that book, they were trying to protect people from eating unclean food and getting sick. They ended up, having it be a religious command, a command from above. But that's just a way of, I think, trying to communicate good information through the generations.
Yeah, don't you see? I mean, and I didn't think about this till just today. I see similarities in how, okay, an individual or individuals, Satoshi or Satoshis, however many of them there were, that created this for the good of mankind. All of a sudden, we have, all this competitive, nothing wrong with competition, but everybody trying to take it over for their own good. And I think that's sort of what happened with these good books that were written thousands of years ago. They were co-opted for power or for wealth,
Well, and we do know things like
maybe that didn't happen. That's just.
We know some things, like when the monks made copies of the Bible, they'd often add their own stuff in. Then we have the King James version of the Bible, which obviously is, approved by King James. So there's obviously not going to be any anti-king stuff in that version of the Bible.
Yeah, but deep in there, there's a lot of good, fundamentally sound psychological practices, and who can take credit for that? At some point along the way, humans learned what it took to be to live a good life and to feel good about yourself. And so, because it's not a natural thing, you know, the first part of your brain, the amygdala, is the fear-based part of your brain. That's where all your nerves go, through that part first. So the normal human state is a state of fear. And the front part of the brain, which was developed much later in our evolution, the prefrontal cortex, it was a sort of a governor on that fear, and both ways, having too much and not having enough, you know, the rational part of your brain. But I think that, you know, we've figured out that it's just so much better to forgive. And, you know, those words were placed in books, and people who live by that actually probably do have a better life. You know, I think you really do. So whether you're a Christian and you attribute it to the Bible, or whether you just live that way and attribute it to, this is how I'm going to live, you're going to have a better life.
I think that's the thing we should all do. We can separate it from the religious aspects, and we can just do the good for human aspects. If it's good for people to forgive, then I think it's good. It doesn't have to be commanded. And it reminds me of the Dalai Lama's book. He said, other religions aren't like a cafeteria. They're all or nothing. But here at Buddhism, we're like a cafeteria. If you want to meditate, that's great. If you want to believe in reincarnation, that's cool. If you don't, that's fine too. You can just do this stuff, and if it works for you, do it. We just want to improve your life. And I thought he was really down to earth there, for a religious leader and for all he's been through. And it was a really great message in his book, How to Practice, by the Dalai Lama.
Yeah. You know, something else you said this morning, you talked about something that you thought was bad or good. I was just reading something past couple of days. It made sense to me. The author said, you know, there's not really good or bad. It's just circumstances and your perception of those circumstances. And, you know, that sort of struck me as odd. But then the more you think about it, you know, there's probably something to be said for that. And, you know, if you don't like the bad, you know, and it's a circumstance you don't like, you know, you do what you can to change it.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if if there is like absolute good and absolute evil. Usually, I'm less of a, well, I think all things are gray, but I think there is evil and there is good. But it's really confusing if you want to get really confused. I read Sam Harris's latest book. It's called Free Will, and in that book, Sam's done some studies. And basically, if you get a thought in your head, I'm going to drink a glass of water. They've done a brain scan on your head, and there's an electrical impulse that comes a millisecond before you get that thought. So we don't really know if you had the thought that you want to drink water, or if the electrical impulse started the section of your brain that generated the thought. What Sam Harris says, and this is a philosophical book, so he could be right or wrong, but his theory is basically, and this is going to horrify a lot of you, but that's why I think this is going to be a good discussion. Sam says that we have no free will, that everything is a result of experience and our situation, and therefore, if somebody grows up to become an axe murderer, we can't blame them for being an axe murderer because their situation made them into that. It's a very interesting theory. You can disagree with it, you can agree with it, but I just putting it out there, I thought it was really interesting to read. And Sam seemed to have some very strong evidence on this electrical signal in our brains.
Well, yeah, that's interesting, but I have a different thought on that. I've read a lot about the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is very different from the thinking or conscious mind. And what I think has been determined, and a number of older books sort of point this out, is what you end up planting in your subconscious mind, thought, is like an autopilot for your behavior. So if you plant fear, or if you plant doubt in your subconscious mind, it's an autopilot for outcomes that are not positive. Because, some examples are, you know, you drive to work in the morning. Are you consciously paying attention to what's happening And I know there's times where I get to work, I'm like, well, how did I even get here? The subconscious mind is directing the movement. So, but the Napoleon Hill was a very acute on this area in terms of this, how the subconscious mind will take you. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, and it happens over time, but will help you achieve. And there are limitations, but ultimately, what you plant in there, if you plant weeds, you get weeds. You plant flowers, you get flowers. But you plant in that subconscious mind, and you can't do it in a fashion that you don't believe. You have to do it in a fashion that you strongly believe what you're going to achieve. Since I had studied that and started practicing sort of cleansing that subconscious mind and just planting in there exactly what I wanted in there, I mean, I can attest, and it could be luck. It could be, like Sam Harris says, it's worked for me. It's a very interesting thing. And there's also the concept of you have a gut brain. So there's a separate nervous system. There's a nervous system that runs through your gut. It almost acts as a thinking brain as well as your brain in your head. That's a whole different topic, though. But I'm not sure if I agree with Sam on that. But certainly you could be in a circumstance where you put the wrong things in your head, and you will never be able to overcome what you have in your subconscious mind. And so that's the thing about affirmations. When you say to yourself over and over and you believe it, which I think is where prayer eventually came from. These early psychologists who didn't know they were psychologists found out that when you put these things over and over into your mind, they help you achieve whatever goal, psychological or physical, that you were looking for. They helped you get closer to it. So I thought, I just think that's, from what I've been able to tell, I think there's merit to that. I will have to read Sam's book. I've heard about it.
It's not long, and it's very interesting. And I'm not even saying Sam's right here, because he goes all the way. He's like, we should let everyone out of jail. We should forgive everyone. He's just basically saying, yeah, it's all environment, and it's all these electrical impulses.
I let people out of jail. I wasn't always of this mindset. I think we should let every single drug offender out of jail tomorrow. And I don't know why we don't do it. It's just absurd. It's just absurd. Now, if you've convicted of violent crime, you have to do your time, whatever society deems that is. I'm nobody's judge and jury, right? Or at least haven't been. But these drug crimes, locking people up for these drug crimes is absolutely, the older I get, the more sickened I feel by it. And we're in a police state now where they get they receive their pay by the number of their accolades anyway. You're a good cop, you arrested this many people. Well, if 19 out of 20 of them are drug crimes, is that really? I'm just not there. I don't think we should be imprisoning people for these long prison terms for a crime that really they're only hurting themselves. And I think if we did like what we did with alcohol, you were talking yesterday about alcohol being a dangerous drug. That is by far the most dangerous drug that society sanctions. And somehow we found a way to incorporate it into society without total civil unrest. So we could do the same thing with other drugs. Just tax it like they do.
Sure, I totally agree. And
corporations take it over.
Especially with so many states having legalized marijuana or medicinal marijuana, I think at the very least, all of the marijuana criminals in jail should be let free, whether it's dealing, using, holding, whatever they've done wrong, they should go free. And to go back with what you're saying earlier about Napoleon Hill, I have read his book, Think and Grow Rich, and I think that's the positive attitude. It seems like hippy dippy stuff, and I know a lot of people dismiss it because it seems too easy and it seems too good to be true. But I really do think it helps to have a positive attitude, and that I don't know that if we have a gut brain or if we have a collective unconscious or whatever we're tapping into. But there is something out there. And I read another book from the similar time period. It was about how to generate ideas. And this guy went back to the basics, and he talked about how he comes up. He's an advertising man, of course, but he talks about how he comes up with ideas and how he merges them and blends them. And it was so funny because this guy wrote it in the 1930s or something, maybe almost 100 years ago. And I was reading it and I was like, I do that. I do that. I never knew anyone else does that. That's great stuff. He would say about how he'd get all this information from all over and he'd put it in his head, and then he'd walk away from the thing, and he'd, go for a walk in the park, and he'd like go to a hockey game or something. He'd do something different. And then he would realize later on that his brain would have ideas for him, and that they'd be waiting for him back there, and that he would get all of his ideas and he doesn't even know where they came from. And yet he wrote this great book describing how he got his ideas and how he can learn, and how you can learn. And I think that's great. So I think we've gone through a lot of subjects here. I think we're also going to welcome Nico to the show. How's it going, Nico? You're muted right now. Have you been catching up with the discussion earlier, or do you have a new topic for us?
Hey, Thomas. Glad to be in the show. My name is Nico. I'm from Finland. And yeah, I've been listening into you, and I didn't realize you're on. And then I heard what you're talking about. This is one of my favorite topics, consciousness. And I read an awesome book related to that, Biocentrism, which I warmly recommend. Read it twice already. And what you said about this free will and illusion of free will, and I do think it's to some extent it is an illusion. You mentioned test they did about the impulses in your brain. Like they did this test that you're supposed to raise your hand and press a button when you think you're going to raise your hand. And they found out that there's even up to 10 seconds delay between the actual pressing of the button and when you thought that you pressed the button. So actually you made the decision of pressing the button up to 10 seconds before you thought of it. So this is a very interesting experiment. And what biocentrism goes to explain is to give answers to physical problems like the Big Bang and stuff like that haven't really been fleshed out and there's really not a conclusive evidence either way. And it answers a lot of unanswered questions by bringing forward this idea that consciousness creates reality and not the other way around. Really a cool book to fall down the rabbit hole with. Yeah, I recommend that.
And if that's true, I think that all this positive attitude stuff could pay off. We could create a better reality through all of our positive thoughts. And in a way, that's kind of what we're doing about Bitcoin. I know that it took a lot of investors and a lot of buying and selling to drive the price from $300 to $7,500, whatever it is today. But at the same time, it also took a lot of good thoughts. I know I thought good thoughts about Bitcoin, and I know a lot of other people thought good thoughts about Bitcoin. And in a way, this might have helped create this world that we now live in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the old-time hodlers actually had a why for why they were putting their their resources into Bitcoin. If you don't have a why for it, you're going to be scared out on the first dip, right? You're just not going to hang in there. But most of the people, and I think what's happened recently is I think a lot of the big money got in, found out that they weren't going to shake a whole lot more loose from the old-time hodlers. They were just shaking it loose from each other, the big traders. And I think that's why we have hit the bottom. I really don't think there's a whole lot more large amount of coin for them to gain by trying to drive, and they've got techniques to move the price down. They can wash trade between themselves, some of these big traders. It's an unregulated market, but I think they get to a point where they see they're not making any more headway and they're losing some coin, and then it comes back the other way. So these hodlers of last resort are there for a reason. We're there because there's a reason we're in it. Whether it's because, one of the main reasons I'm in it is I think we had no right to strap our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and their children with this massive debt. And it's a bunch of old men in Congress saying, well, let somebody else worry about it. Let somebody else worry about it. It will come home to roost. There is no question about it. The dollar will not be the reserve currency for eternity. And when it comes home to roost, it's going to be terrible. We had no right to do that to them. And that's one of the main reasons I'm in Bitcoin, is because I think that is really an injustice. And there was never an alternative until just recently. And so when you have a why, you're going to stick around a lot longer.
That's a really good point, Jeff, because you're right. There, you have to have a reason to be into Bitcoin, and we can't exactly change the Congress, at least not one person or two people or whatever. Or we can't change the direction of the entire country, but you can get a little Bitcoin as a hedge. And it's kind of like that saying they have where you can vote with your feet. If you like some place, move there. If you want to, change your situation, get out of there. And in that way, if you have all your money in the banks and the fiat accounts and the government, all that, get it out of there. Get some of your money into Bitcoin. Maybe you'll be, like Jeff saying, one of these people who's buying for psychological reasons. You're not just buying to make money. And I know, shocking. A lot of people out there are like, what? Not to make money, to do a good thing. But yeah, this is like,
listen to Peter Schiff. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Peter Schiff just kept driving. He debated Eric Voorhees, and Peter Schiff's take was that the only reason anybody's in Bitcoin is speculative purposes. And I wanted to reach through the screen in a fit of prehistoric anger and strangle the guy. But, that's a joke. But he's so wrong on that. He couldn't be more wrong. And he doesn't realize how wrong he is.
I think, yeah, you're right. A lot of people are into Bitcoin because they think it's better money and they know what that can do for the world. And they're excited to try out this sound money experiment and see how it works. See, the shoes on the other foot. All the Keynesians will be on the side and all the Austrians will be in charge. And I don't know if it'll make things better, but we'll have a different result because we're trying different things. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't.
Yeah, I've got to look. It was nice talking to you.
Well, thanks so much for calling in, Jeff. Give us a call anytime. Go ahead, Nico. You had more on this?
Yeah, we haven't really had the free market manifest itself in a true form, in my opinion. This is the first time. We don't really have data on how free market and these kind of theories would work. It's just it seems so logical that it will work once it has the correct framework to do so. And we haven't had that yet. I think the old system kind of has to go before that can truly happen. But at least we have the tool right now, and it's looking very, very, very promising in the future.
Well, another thing I've always talked about is that we need a revolution that's bootstrapped. I watched all the Thrive conspiracy theory videos, and I agree with a lot of it. But then they got into the Venus Project, and they talked about basically Star Trek: The Next Generation. Everyone's happy, everyone's doing what they want to do. There's no more crime, there's no more poverty, all these things, and I'm like, yes, that's great, I love it. But then I looked for the section, how do we get from here to there? And they seem to have a belief, if we went back to zero, all of the existing systems suddenly vanished, then we could start over from zero with our new society. And I was like, well, we're never going back to zero. I mean, the closest I can get to zero is those people who are going to be on Mars. And even then, their zero is if Elon Musk wants to give you less air or less food, you get that or you go out the airlock. So that's the only zero reset that I see in our future. Everything else needs to be bootstrapped. You need to have a list of things that you need to do before you get from here to there. And I didn't see that in the libertarian movement or in the Thrive Venus Project movement or in any of these other so-called revolutionary movements. I saw a lot of the way that the French Revolution had great ideas, and then it became Napoleon taking over. And that's happened so many times over and over again. So what I see in Bitcoin is the very first bootstrapped revolution. Bitcoin itself has everything that we need already, but not everyone has Bitcoin. So all we need to do is get everyone in the world into Bitcoin, and then all the things that Bitcoin already is will become more and more apparent as the value goes up, as the ability to print money goes down, and we're going to have a whole new society. So that's why I was so excited for Bitcoin. I was like, that's a revolution that can actually work. And I've studied all the other ones. They all failed. What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree, and that's the one reason why I'm doing these videos and talking to people about this, and also what goes to show that about the strength of positive mindset. When I started I mean, I got into Bitcoin originally 2010, and then I took like, I'll go into that a little bit later, but I really got into it a year ago when I really understood what it was and started looking into it. And that time I felt like overwhelmed. I felt like it's too late. I'm never going to catch up. I'm never going to be able to like contribute, but here we are. And yeah, we founded this Finnish Cryptocurrency Association in Finland. I'm the chairman of that. I'm creating content. I have my personal talk show now. And so just to go to show that if you have like this, you really want to do something, you want to help, go help. Like this is a freedom movement. Everybody can chip in, and everybody has their own unique way to contribute. And I'm no means of expert of any field, but I'll do what I can to expedite the transformation, because there's going to be a huge friction between moving from the old system. Like you correctly said, it's not going to go to zero, obviously, but the old system is going to have a big hit, and there's going to be a lot of friction, a lot of unhappiness. And this is one way, one tool that we can all use. And yeah, I used to be like about the revolutionary movements. I used to be a pretty big zeitgeist guy back in 2010, I think. I organized these screenings in the University of Nottingham where I studied at that time. And yeah, I kind of like, I was really into it, but there was something missing, like the action. It wasn't actionable what they were doing, like the Venus Project and stuff like that, like pie in the sky thing. It's all good and well, like post-scarcity, you know, society sounds good, but how do we actually get there? And I think Bitcoin is how we get there.
And a lot of what I found from the conspiracy theory section of my time is that I could make people afraid, and I could be afraid, but that's all we were really selling. They're saying over and over again how powerful the people are, the evil conspiracy theory people, and how they control everything, and it just makes you really powerless and really small. And I felt that there was no way I could change that. And if I tried to change anything, they'd take care of me, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, well, I want to live a normal, peaceful life. I don't want trouble with anybody. I don't want to be involved, but we are involved because we're all in this game. And then I found Bitcoin, and I was like, wow, there's something where a small person like me can flip a big person. And I was studying Aikido at the time too. And that really drew it in, because, you know, I flip tall people, and then some little kid will come up and flip me. And it's because he knows how to do it. And I think through Bitcoin, we've found our way to flip society. And I flipped it a little bit before with the MP3. I got a lot of free music, but I never made any money. Same thing with the movies and the BitTorrents and all these things, and just streaming and all that. And, you know, that only got us like free movies and free music, right? This one is the next one is the big one. This is when the internet and the technology, and yeah, we flipped the communications media and the snail mail and all these things before, but now we're going to flip the banks. The internet's going to come through, and it's going to flip all the banks. So yeah, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen overnight. And, you know, I hate to say this, but it's going to help if you guys would get out and push, right? Normally it doesn't. Normally we have engines and all those, but the engines aren't functioning yet. We need some pushing. We need some momentum. And we were talking yesterday to that guy from Montana, and he, you know, as far as he knows, he's the only person in Montana into Bitcoin, and he doesn't have any friends into it, and his family gets mad at him when he mentions it, and it's always dark market, Silk Road, drug money thing, you know. And I told him, and I think that I empowered him, and I want to empower you, and I want to empower everybody that's talking out there. You can do it. You can hand out flyers. You can teach your friends. You can get them to get $20. You can teach them how to buy the crazy altcoins. Get them to put $100 in, put $10 in each one of those things, the top 10. I don't care what they are. You have the power to do this. You have the knowledge to do this. Right now, it seems really hard to go to Coinbase and create an account, to go to Bittrex and to create an account, to send your money from Coinbase to Bittrex, to buy the altcoins, or to buy the Bitcoin, or whatever you want to buy. You have the knowledge to teach people that. You can even charge. You know, do the first couple for free for your friends. Do a practice run. If it goes well, charge $20. Charge $100. I don't know what it's worth, but you can turn on people to Bitcoin. This will help all of us. Like, we're all like, how do we spread the Bitcoin? All these companies are trying, and they're trying merchants, or they're trying shoppers, or they're trying the chicken or the egg, and none of it works, because we need to do the chicken and the egg at the same time. And that means that the merchants and the businesses have to do all their work, but that we require work from you. And I know you've been taught to be a consumer and to sit there and to watch things and to consume things. But I'm actually asking you to act, right? And you acted when you bought Bitcoin and you acted when you bought crazy altcoins. But now you need to act in teaching. And you need to teach at least one other person how to use Bitcoin. If you want to spend a lot of time, teach them how to buy the crazy altcoins or whatever. But I think this is it. This is us. This is, if you're looking, what do we need to do to get Bitcoin to the next level? And yeah, you could be a consumer. You can sit there on your couch and do nothing. And yeah, Bitcoin will probably be okay anyway. But if you want it to go faster, and if you want to be involved, if you want to take that old World War II poster, Daddy, what did you do during the Great World War II? Oh, well, what did you do during the Bitcoin revolution? Did you sit there on the side, or were you out there teaching people, spreading the word? And you don't have to be great at it. You'll get better each time you do it. You just need to practice over time. And I think you're ready. I think you've waited long enough. It's time.
What a fantastic call to arms. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, and what I think we're going to need a lot of different kinds of content, because people are different and not everybody's into the all these super technical things, and you don't need to know all those things. You can just go, like, I'll give you for instance, my wife is actually thinking about having her own crypto channel, which is gonna go maybe called, probably she's gonna kill me if I said this, but she, it's
don't say it till you register it. Don't say it till you have the domain name.
I'm not gonna say it now. So, but anyway, the idea is that she's gonna maybe target like people like herself, and people who are curious, people who are not super technical and will never be interested in the techniques. And you know what? You don't need to know how a TCP/IP protocol works to be able to use internet. You don't need to know those. And this is one thing I would really like to see more, is non-technical, like more this kind of ideology side of Bitcoin, what it enables, what kind of like personal responsibility channels, this kind of how to take care of your own business, investment, life. I think that's immensely valuable. And not to say that the technical part is obviously needed as well, but there's something I like to say, the division between 80 and 20 percenters, and the world is run by 80 percenters. So we need a lot of content for 80 percenters, like it or not. So if you can make something that is super entertaining, you have maybe a nice idea, you're attractive, please do make some videos, make some Bitcoin videos, make some crazy Bitcoin videos. As long as you get the word out, it won't matter. And remember, this is NAS equilibrium. We have the perfect game here. Everybody can win. And if we play together, we will all win.
Well, no, people are saying now, they're saying buildle, and they want people to get involved. But I'm saying participatal. People just need to participate. And you might not know everything about Bitcoin, but that's okay. If you get to a question you can't answer, just say that you don't know, say that you'll Google it, and that you'll get back to them. And then you actually have to follow up. You have to do those other 2 steps. You have to Google it, and you have to email them with a better answer. But you can do that, and you can teach anything if you have the strength to say, I don't know, I'll look it up, and I'll get back to you. And to really mean it, not like the press secretary. The press secretary is lying, but I'm saying that you really mean it. And that what I would suggest for your wife or for anyone else, I don't, maybe this is a sexist thing to say or whatever, but we need Tupperware parties, right? We need a group of people, Mary Kay, lipstick, whatever it is. Get your friends at work together, get all the secretaries together, get all the ladies together, or get all the guys together, have a party at a bar or a deer hunting machine or whatever it is. Get your group together and take some time and make a little speech to them about Bitcoin. Just be honest. Tell them your story. I'm so-and-so. I heard about Bitcoin years ago. I ignored it. I got into it at a certain point because it went crazy. Now I'm doing all right. I have a little bit more savings and retirement money than I used to. And I want to share this with you guys. And if your friends are like, no, it's a Ponzi scheme, it's a scam, I don't care. Maybe one of them will come through and they'll say, hey, that sounds pretty cool. I want to put $100 in. And maybe his $100 becomes 120. And next month he's like, hey man, I started dollar cost averaging. I'm in, $100 a week. I just want to see how it goes now. Whatever it is, that's a big win. And that's what we need. That's what we don't have. Nobody's telling the people person to person about Bitcoin. Nobody's marketing the actual Bitcoin. All people do when they get marketing is they're like, oh, we're Ethereum. We're better than Bitcoin. Oh, we're EOS. We're better than Bitcoin. We're the new hip thing and we're better than Bitcoin, which is still great marketing for Bitcoin. It helps us, but we're always secondary. We're always the thing that's being shit on. So when you tell your friends about Bitcoin, you don't have to tell them that it's the thing being shit on by the other altcoins. And you can tell them about the altcoins too, and that they go up and down in value as well. I think any entrance into this space is a win. So if you can give them a couple bucks, get them to spend a couple bucks, people have a totally different value to things once they've put their own money into it. A couple days ago when I was trying to hand out flyers in Las Vegas, nobody was really that interested because they hadn't paid to be there. If they had paid to be there to come to my convention or my seminar and I tried to give them information, they'd have been like, oh, the information I paid for, this has value. But because I was giving them free information on the street, they weren't able to differentiate from myself, who's volunteering, and a guy who's there getting paid by the strip club trying to hand out the flyers. There wasn't a differentiation there. So we're working on that. We're working on some seminars and some things like that. But for right now, just talk to your friends, talk to your local community, not in a mean way. No, don't tell them I bought Bitcoin years ago and now I'm rich. Be like, you could buy Bitcoin now and you could still make money, or at the very least, no one can take your money away, which is a big thing. There's lots of stories these days, people losing their inheritance. They had it in dollars, they brought it into the country, or they sent it somewhere, or they're bringing it back. They go over an imaginary line and they say, oh, we're taking your inheritance now. And hopefully they'll get it back and they're fighting for it and so forth. But you don't have to be one of those people. You can put your inheritance into Bitcoin and you never have to worry about anybody taking it, bank fees, anything like that. It'll just wait there. If you put a Bitcoin down in a Trezor or Ledger or paper wallet, something secure, and you put it on a shelf or bury it under your yard or something, you could give it to your kid later. It'll still be worth a Bitcoin or 0.1 of a Bitcoin or whatever you can manage. So I think it's up to us. It's up to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like what you said about the stories, the Bitcoin stories, and it's actually what my wife is also doing on the download now. She's interviewing some of the Bitcoin OGs or Bitcoin maximalists, and the focus is on telling their story, like how you got in, how it changed. Because well, I guess she feels inspired by my life. My life changed completely once I got the idea of Bitcoin, and I moved from the high time preference to low time preference, and what it brought to my health. I used to be fat, and now I'm not so much anymore. I'm more healthy. I look forward in life. I try to make every purchase an investment rather than just try to get rid of my fiat money. And I didn't even realize I was doing that. But a lot of people are living like this, and we can save them for sure. And yeah, let's tell them our stories.
It does make things better. I saw Zuko, the founder of Zcash, had put up a post, and I don't know, he's taking some heat for this, but I still like what he said. He said that something along the lines that he can go to the grocery store now and buy anything that he wants. And I celebrate him for that. I know he's doing really, really well. He could probably go to a lot of stores and buy anything he wants, but that's a great feeling when you can buy anything in the grocery store. For me, it's stuff like there's a store around here, Ross Discounts for Less, and they sell the stuff that Target can't sell. So it's like old t-shirts and stuff like that. I can buy anything in Ross. And I can't buy like 10 of them, but I can buy pretty much one of anything in the entire Ross store. So that's pretty cool. I mean, they don't sell anything that's more than 50 to 100 bucks, but hey, that was not true before. So no, I think it's fun when people have a little bit of money and can focus on what they want to do. Zuko wants to write cryptography. He wants to write Zcash. He wants to make it better. And now he's got the money to focus on his project. Maybe he has too much money or whatever, but he was only trying to cover. And I think that's totally reasonable and fair. And it's exciting to see all these people with the ability to live their lives how they want to live. And I agree with you. It's great to lose some weight, great to focus on some other things and to be positive. One thing I did recently, which I want to suggest to everybody out there, is I bought myself health insurance. It was a lot of money, even with a little bit of Bitcoin and stuff. And I go, everyone's in Canada, and they're like, oh, we don't pay in Canada, ha ha ha. But you know, I'm still in the US and we still pay. And they've been checking me out, and they might have even fixed some really bad stuff inside me that might have caused me to go Steve Jobs. So let's not go Steve Jobs. Let's do this together. You guys should get the healthcare. Maybe even if you can't pay for it, get it for a couple months. Get some doctors, get some improvement in your life, and then bounce the checks later. Whatever you got to do, get into that healthcare system. I was afraid of it for a long time. It's funny, the things that matter the most, like going to the gym and healthcare, having a healthy body, these kind of things are the things we don't do at all. Right. I'm way more into Radiohead than I am to the gym. Right. Or REM or any of these things. Right. But that's not how it should be. There's a disconnect in our society. I have a greater relationship with my cable company than I do with my healthcare company. And yeah, the costs are different, but the values are different. Like if the cable goes out, I lose the internet and the TV. If the health goes out, I lose everything. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. Eventually, you know, I'm in the ground or something. So no, I would check this out. There's people in the chat. Yeah, Jeremy, you got to go to the doctor. Sorry, man. I know you haven't been in 20 years, and that's a great result. Like I did that when I was younger, and it went really well. And you think you're invincible, and then you hit a wall, and it's like things aren't getting better, and you got to go. So if you're feeling fine, that's one thing, but you should still get checked out. Even the horrible tests that they do aren't so bad. I've had a camera, and I've had a camera, and they met in the center, and I'm still okay. You know, they knocked me out and stuff, so I don't remember it. But there's been cameras everywhere, and you guys should get some cameras going on inside of you, and fix whatever's wrong with you. Get some health insurance. Figure it out. I know it's hard, but I think we can do better. So. They don't like REM in the chat. Blasphemy. REM's
Yeah, one
pretty...
thing.
Go ahead. Sorry, Nico.
Yeah, sorry. One thing is that it actually affects to great the time preference, because of the human lifespan is so short. So it actually, when you take care of yourself, and let's say that the singularity comes, or the technology advances so much that you can start replacing reliably parts of your body, and then you can suddenly live, which I believe is possible, that you can suddenly live for 100 years, 200 years, no problem. Like the life expectancy within the last 100 years I think maybe doubled in some part of the world, and I think it can do the same thing. So another thing to keep in mind, the long game, like on the off chance that this might happen, do you want to be in a terrible, horrible, fat shape because you just wanted to live large as long as you as fast as you can, as long as you're alive, and then suddenly there's a way to live longer? So are you willing to take that risk? And I just don't want to risk that anymore. So I'm taking all precautions now, and guess what? I'm having a much more fulfilling life right now. I have more time and energy to do things when I'm being healthy, and you just simply no way in losing by taking care of yourself physically.
And they're talking in the chat that they might prefer Eastern medicine to Western medicine. I'm fine with that. Whatever you want to go to, you should go see it, get it checked out. Even at the same time, you could have the test done, have the camera stuck up with you, and still believe in Eastern medicine. It's totally fine. I just think you got to get opinions from all sides. Of course, the lesson of Steve Jobs is that Steve Jobs was very rich and very busy, and that he didn't take time out to get his appointments, and they could have found it sooner, and they could have eliminated it sooner, but he decided to do a fruit juice diet instead of having the doctors eliminate it. And we don't have Steve Jobs anymore. And it's big sad for everybody. Even if you don't like Apple or you don't like the company, he made a lot of things. He pushed a lot of people forward. He was a huge jerk, but he also pushed a lot of people forward. So we just have to, and we don't have him anymore. So let's not have that happen to you. You have a lot of good things to do still, and you need the energy and the strength to do them. They're also talking about teeth in the chat. That's a good one too. It's painful. It's not fun. It costs you money. It's they drill you. It's actually, physically painful. But I got the teeth done too recently. I did pretty good. I only had one that had a big cavity. They wanted to root canal me. I haven't been root canaled yet, so I was afraid. But it turns out that I lucked out, and they just gave me a big drilling, or more drilling with more filling. So I was okay. And yeah, it definitely costs some money, less Bitcoin to have and those things. But yeah, take care of your teeth, take care of your health, go to a gym, get some exercise, eat better. A lot of the things, a lot of the reason I lost weight recently is I stopped snacking entirely. I was like, no more snacks, no more soda, no more, try to cut down the sugar and anything that you can. And I ate chicken and rice for like a month, trying to figure out what was going on, and started losing weight. So it's hard to get that kind of control. I'm not perfect at it. I screw up every once in a while, eat a bag of chips, some chocolate or something, but we can do better. I just think there's a lot of like, I know this is more positive attitude BS or whatever, but I think we can do better. I know everyone wants to get us back on the Bitcoin topic, but these are important topics too. So there, people in the chat say, stop the bodily health talk. It's making me hungry. It's different. That's a different response than what we thought we'd get. But we still have the phone lines open. It's 9:48. We'll try to go about 12 more minutes here if we can get a phone call. Call us now on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. Hey, there we go. It worked. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, my name's Dave, and calling from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
All right, Dave, what's on your mind about Bitcoin today? Or do you want to talk about the health topic or maybe James Gunn and forgiveness? Anything is fine.
Yeah, really, all of it is very inspiring today. It got me off on some of my own, outlier interests. Sentience from the earlier discussions of forgiveness, and also the taking care of yourself, that's a very positive message, and one I got to go with. Even if you have to relearn it throughout life, even if you have to relearn these kinds of lessons throughout life, it's like you learn them. Hey, I am a software developer, and I have been poking around the edges of Lightning and Bitcoin for some time now. And really, when it comes to Bitcoin, number one, I wanted to say, I really appreciate your capacity and your guests' capacity, all of them, call-ins and everyone scheduled. The capacity to explain and your power to communicate is, you have a really high amplitude, man. It's great. And I really appreciate this show. So thank you. It has educated me on so many occasions. But back to the Lightning and Bitcoin. I've been focusing on those two things and getting something simple and familiar already, like a WooCommerce, or I used there's a WooCommerce plugin for WordPress, and you just check out of your shopping experience and pay with Lightning, and I have that set up just recently. But that's one of the most important things, I think, for the advancement of Bitcoin and Lightning, is the accessibility and the ease of use of the user experience, and the familiarity too. And so that's why I kind of focused on getting this working, kind of firsthand. And I'm not a big call-in person, so I really kind of felt like I had to have this big announcement that I got this working. So that's all I got. I really just, buy Bitcoin.
Well, I think it's a great idea to get Lightning working with WooCommerce or what's it called? I just forgot the blog software, WordPress or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I think that'd be good. What do you think of the idea? I've heard a lot of people say that the Lightning network is different than how you send money on Bitcoin, that you have to send an invoice first then you get paid, and then back and forth, and that it's totally different. I kind of think, and I hate to say this, but there's so few people on Bitcoin. I don't really care if people don't know how to use the QR codes and the old system. I think we could just teach them whatever this new system is and still have a ton of Lightning adoption. What do you think of that idea?
Okay, two things. I have a blog, and I publish these kinds of topics, but
you can tell us where we can read it.
At the command line level, yes, there is that those steps and that level of interaction between the two nodes and ultimately a person. In the experience I wanted to achieve, it is as simple as either copy paste a long string into your Lightning wallet, or scan the QR code from your Lightning wallet. And it's as simple as that, literally. Of course, there's the tad bit of getting, a Lightning wallet that's on mainnet is still hard to kind of find.
So it's doable. It's totally doable. And I agree with what you said earlier about having to relearn how to take care of yourself as the days go by. And I know for me personally, I had a couple of things that I didn't want to learn about, right? I had these blocks in my mind. I was like, well, I don't care how cars work, and I don't really care how the human body works. I mean, I have all the basics of anatomy and so forth, but as far as the details, I didn't want to know about it. I didn't want to be a doctor. You cut the thing open, that's where my interest ends. I was into computers all the way. And now that I'm older, I have to change that back, and I have to say, well, I am a little bit interested in cars. I need to know a little bit more than I used to know. And now I'm really interested in the human body. I want to know all these horrible things I didn't want to know before, and it freaks me out, and I have to change. And I think other people might have to go with this. I know Jeremy was saying he hadn't been to the doctor in 20 years, and that's great when you're a kid, but you can't do that when you're older. Nobody's going to get through it. No matter how good you are, you should go see them and those kind of things. So yeah, I think it's a good point that we have to relearn this, and that it is a skill. It's something you can improve. It's something that can fall apart if you just let it go. And I think we can all get better at this.
I agree. I like to abstract pretty much everything I encounter. So I have spent a long time in my life. I'm 50, and I get along well enough, but life has thrown its personal and genetic and every other kind of problem you can imagine by my age. So you really have to relearn how to do things. And really, that's on a personal note, but on a broader note, more general note, is like you say, the practice. And when you practice things, you get better. And if you don't practice, unless you've gotten super good or good enough at it already, it'll fade. And most things like higher connected memory systems in the human body. I actually have an abstraction for sentience, and I'll just run through that real quick. You have a resonant memory system, and that's what your memories are pulled up and so forth. You have a conceptual symbolizer, which is what interprets symbols and language and so forth. You have your sense organs to get to the discussion of the meat, and then the sense organs have a layer. And this is what I love about the layer 2 idea of Lightning and the relation to the distributed nature of Bitcoin is the distributed nature of sentience in a favorite model of mine. And I won't want to go on forever about it, but I do want to finish at least a couple more parts. One is the Reality Process Center, and that's connected to various specialized areas of memory, and then that to highly connected areas of memory that are not so specialized, they're just connected to everything. And one of the simplest to understand really is the reality process center and the sense organs. And if you stick with discussing that, you have a point of attention in your reality process center. This point of attention can only spend so much time on any particular vector, okay? And if you look at it, you know, from in Cartesian space.
So it's like the needle on a record player, right? It only has the thing in front of it.
Right. Right, and this thing is very dynamic. And, you know, what you were talking about with, I think, the Harris fellow notion of not having any free will, this model does not directly support that. It does not directly negate it. I would have to do more studying in both areas to really figure that out. I probably will now that you've brought it up. But because this is a long-running fascination with me. And describing the reality process center, and really abstracting the various layers of sentience, and how you get from a photon, a stream of photons coming into your eyes and being processed in such a way that shadows indicate separateness, in a way that mechanical layers and layers later, you have done things like compare it to everything, have a model built up in your own head of what you see. And if you're running across a busy street, or not so busy that you shouldn't be running across it, but but a street that has cars, there's one coming. It's like, can I get across that without having to run like a madman or get hit? And you have calculated, the speed of the car, all this stuff, all sorts of calculations, that we commonly refer to in our Newtonian world, and we kind of intuitively understand these calculations. It's like, I don't need to understand the calculus to say, hey man, I'm going to get hit or look like a fool if I try to run in front of that car. And
I think we're going to need models like that as we teach not only the AI, like the computer AI, but also the cars, right? Because you think about cars and they're talking about how the big problem right now with self-driving cars is you have to program the computer either to protect the driver at all costs or to protect the pedestrians and the public. And if you're going to swerve to the left, kill the driver, swerve to the right, kill 10 people, what should the car do? And I think a lot of these choices that the human mind can make so quickly are going to have to be made now by computers, and that we're going to have to really understand how we think and why we think if we want to properly program that computer, both the car and the general AI.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like if we don't have the free will, then we really do want AI running the show, because we're just these accidental beings stumbling through the universe with 0.01% of any sort of imaginary control. So the AIs will definitely do better than we can, some 90%, of the time. And then those times where it accidentally kills, the 10 people instead of the one person, we'll chalk that up, and of course the AI will learn from this experience. I mean, machine learning is getting sophisticated. It's primitive on its surface still.
Well, and to go back to Sam Harris, I really hope we do a good job raising and nurturing this AI so that it has a good environment and a good childhood, and it doesn't get angry at us and try to kill us. And of course, I'm reminded of Philip K. Dick in his book and the movie Scanner Darkly, where it says, I wonder if the scanner will see me lightly or darkly. So there's still some choice out there in the AI. We've got to watch out for those guys.
Well, what we don't want to do is break everything down into an either-or choice. At some level where there's 3 possibilities or 7 possibilities or 5 or 9 or some, giant number if the processing is sufficient. The number of possibilities is still relevant to the time factor of whether I'm going to swerve right or left. Okay. And well, I start to get lost.
No worries. I think it's a good discussion and might be worth having. There's someone in the chat that's interested in your plugin. Maybe if you could chat to Domain Magic.
It's not a plugin. It's a
Okay.
fully running system.
That sounds great. Where can we learn more about that?
It's I am one of those people that don't. I've been around a long time publicly. I don't mind my name being out there. It's David EINERSON.com. And there aren't a lot of services on there because I just kind of got it all working, and I'm transferring from an old system to new, and there's no like CSV import. I have to do it manually with typing. I don't have any AI for that yet. So,
well, we're all working on the AI. Hopefully, we'll all have some AI soon. But thanks so much for your call. Some interesting ideas today, and we can check it out too. So, thank you.
Great. And I do, I did self-promote a little bit here, but I do want to focus on the education. And so you'll note that there's some like 21 blog entries that are about Bitcoin and Lightning. And they teach you how to run your own. So.
Very cool. Keep it up. We all need to spread the word about this. There is no Bitcoin marketing department. This is it right here. So thanks so much for your call, and give us a call anytime.
Great. Thank you, sir. And thank you all for the whole network. Thank you, WCN.
Thank you so much. And we'll be back soon, but I think we're going to head this show towards the end. Nico, is there anything you'd like to plug? Where can people check out your work?
Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, I got to run as well. I'm pretty active on Twitter under the name Omnifin. I have my own channel that I try to do as high quality as possible panels, not regularly. It's called Maximal Liberty, and Max Hillebrand is also regular in my show. You guys probably all know him from the World Crypto Network. He's been doing awesome work, and kudos to Max if you're listening. Awesome work connecting two coasts, two sides of the world, rather. And I hope we can build like a European World Crypto Network from here on, and then expand it to truly a global network.
Absolutely, that's the plan. And welcome aboard, Nico. We need new co-hosts like this. We have a Slack chat. If you want to message me on Twitter, send me your email. I'll add you to the Slack chat. Then you could be a co-host like this. We're working on trying to get a server where I can have the Skype hosted. Then I could share the Skype with multiple people, and multiple people could run this talk show while I'm sleeping. So that would be pretty great for me. And that's the plan. We're very open source. People contribute. I always tell people, have something to promote, have your own project to sell, because we don't have any money. We'd like to pay people, but we don't have it. If somebody wants to drop $1 million on us, we'll use it to make videos, to spread the word about Bitcoin, and to pay the people who do that for us. That's what we do. So thanks so much for joining us. I also want to say Nico and I both have the same headphones. First time that's ever happened. I love these headphones. They're Sennheiser. I wanted them for a long time. They got that retro old look to it with the brown, and they sound really good. They're a bit loud if you use them around other people, but you only really care about how good it sounds for yourself, right? So yeah, I love these headphones. Even though I got the new wireless Bluetooth Beats and everything, but these still sound good. You just have to have a headphone jack, so not on my phone anymore. But as always, you can support this show by donating Bitcoin or any of these crazy altcoins. You could subscribe to our Patreon, which is little as $2 a month on your credit card, or you can support this show by giving us a thumbs up and a share. We don't have any marketing either. We don't have any advertising. So if you go out there on Twitter and say, hey, I like the World Crypto Network, they talk about, hashtag Bitcoin, and send us a link put it out there, bring more people to the show. That's you contributing. And also you contribute when you call in. So thanks so much to everybody who called in. I'm going to put the finishing touches here on my Bitcoin video. It should be out tomorrow. I handed out flyers in Las Vegas, and I'm putting a challenge out to everybody at home that you should hand out flyers in your neighborhood. I'm going to put the PDFs online so you can just print the flyers that I made, or you can download them and edit them and put your own stuff on them or make your own version. But I think we should all spread the word about Bitcoin. Try to teach at least one other person about Bitcoin. And you don't have to teach them all the technicals. A lot of times teaching can be as much as install this wallet, show me a QR code, boom, here's $1, and now you have $1. Think about that. Think about this. You sent $1 without using any kind of middleman or intermediary. It's really amazing. People in the chat already say they're going to do the flyer thing. So make sure you do the flyers. And if you want, videotape yourself handing out the flyers, and I'll put it on this show. If I get a bunch of them, I'll do a montage. I'll do a whole little video of people around the world handing out flyers, spreading the word about Bitcoin. I think we can do it together. So thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.